3 billion tons of Pacific Ocean water simply vanishes. It doesn't evaporate. It doesn't freeze. It goes down. Deep beneath the waves, 11,000 meters below the surface, you will find the Mariana Trench. It's a scar on the planet's face. Here, the colossal Pacific Plate is being forced under the neighboring Philippine Plate. Think of it as a planetary conveyor belt, dragging the ocean floor into the Earth's molten heart. For decades, geologists had a comfortable number for how much water this process consumes. They thought they understood the system, but they were wrong. In 2018, a team led by seismologist Chen Kai from Washington University decided to truly listen. They deployed a network of seismic sensors across the trench, monitoring the deep earth tremors that echo through the crust. What they heard was the sound of an ocean being swallowed. The old models suggested about 750 million tons of water were pulled into the mantle here each year. A huge number, yes, but one that kept the planet's water budget neatly balanced. The new data told a different story, a much darker one. The real number wasn't 750 million tons. It was over 3 billion. Think about that. 4 times the amount anyone had ever predicted. This isn't a small error. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of the machine that is our world. To give you a sense of scale, that's enough water to drain Lake Superior, the largest freshwater lake on Earth, more than 3 times over. And that happens every single year. This discovery was published in the scientific journal Nature. But here's the part nobody talks about. The global water cycle is supposed to be a perfect loop. Water that goes down into the mantle is meant to come back up, released as steam through volcanic eruptions. What goes in must come out. It's a simple equation we teach in schools, but the volcanic output doesn't match these new intake numbers. It's not even close. The planet is retaining water. It's hiding it somewhere deep in its core. For the first time, we have direct evidence that our oceans are draining into the Earth. And the Pacific, holding more than half of the free water on our world, is on the front line of this silent disappearance. The official reports are quiet about the long-term results. They present the data, but they refuse to ask the terrifying next question. If the Earth is swallowing our ocean 4 times faster than we believed, what happens when it gets thirsty? It doesn't gasp. It pulls. It squeezes. And the story of that thirst begins not in 2018, but 4.5 billion years ago, when the Earth was nothing but a ball of molten rock. The water you see today is only what was left on the surface. The rest was trapped, locked away hundreds of kilometers beneath your feet. For a long time, this was just a theory, a ghost ocean we could model on computers but never touch. The official geology textbooks showed a mostly dry mantle, but some scientists questioned this. They saw an imbalance in the planet's chemistry, and they wondered where the missing water went. And here is where it gets interesting. The process you saw in the Mariana Trench subduction is the primary delivery mechanism. Imagine the ocean floor as a wet towel. As one tectonic plate slides under another, the immense pressure and heat squeeze that towel. The water is forced out of the rock and into the mantle, but it doesn't stay liquid. It gets chemically bonded into the very structure of the minerals there. It becomes part of the rock itself. Think of it less as an underground lake and more like a sponge made of stone, a vast, dark, high-pressure sponge. Then, in 2014, it stopped being a theory. A team led by geophysicist Graham Pearson at the University of Alberta was studying a worthless-looking diamond from a mine in Brazil. It was small, brown, unfit for jewelry. But inside it, they found a microscopic inclusion of a mineral called ringwoodite. This mineral can only form under the crushing pressures found between 410 and 660 kilometers deep. In the Earth's mantle transition zone, no one had ever seen a sample of it from this deep before. That diamond was a messenger, a billion-year-old capsule that shot to the surface in a volcanic eruption, carrying a secret from the deep Earth. When they analyzed that tiny speck of ringwoodite, they found what they were looking for: water. Not just a trace. A full 1.5% of the mineral's weight was trapped water. Read that sentence again. A mineral that makes up the bulk of a 250-kilometer thick layer of our planet was proven to hold water. Suddenly, the math changed. Everything changed. The calculations suggested this hidden reservoir, this sponge of stone, could hold as much water as all the surface oceans combined. Maybe more. Yes, you heard that right. There is likely another Pacific Ocean, another Atlantic, another Arctic, all stored inside superheated rock deep within the Earth. The textbooks have not caught up to this. They still show a simple water cycle: evaporation, clouds, rain, rivers, ocean. A closed loop. The story stops at the shoreline. But the real system is far larger and far more terrifying. This hidden ocean is not static. It is part of the engine of our planet. It lubricates the movement of tectonic plates. It lowers the melting point of rock, creating the magma that feeds volcanoes. And this is the part that few people are discussing. Chen Kai's 2018 data showed that the input into this system is 4 times larger than we thought. 3 billion tons of water are being pumped into this deep reservoir every year. The output through volcanoes remains the same. We are actively overfilling the tank. And you're living on a planet that is hiding an ocean inside itself, and we are forcing more water into it every second. The official reports present this as a fascinating geological discovery. They don't talk about the consequences. They don't mention that when you add this much water to rock heated to 1,300 degrees Celsius, you are fundamentally changing the rules of the game. You are creating a pressure cooker the size of a planet. So, we've found where the Pacific is going. But that discovery has raised a far more urgent and disturbing question. What is this hidden, growing ocean doing to the world right under our feet? It isn't just sitting there, it's loading a gun. The simple story, the one you might find in a textbook, is that this water acts as a lubricant. It helps the massive tectonic plates slide past one another. A little geological oil to keep the engine running smoothly. But here's the part they don't tell you. When you add this much water at these temperatures, smooth is not the word you should be using. Think about what happens to rock 600 kilometers down. The pressure is over 200,000 times what you feel right now. The rock itself should be plastic. It should bend and flow, not break. And yet, it breaks. It shatters in events we call deep focus earthquakes. For decades, scientists couldn't explain them. How can something that flows like thick honey suddenly snap like glass? The answer, we now suspect, is the water, the very water disappearing from the Pacific. It's forced out of the subducting rock, a process called dehydration embrittlement, causing the surrounding mantle to fracture violently. This isn't a theory. We see the results. On August 19, 2018, an earthquake of magnitude 8.2 struck beneath the islands of Fiji. There was no tsunami. Most people on the surface felt nothing. because this quake happened 563 kilometers straight down. It was the second largest deep focus earthquake ever recorded. The energy it released was equal to thousands of nuclear weapons detonating at once. A silent, violent warning from the deep. Now, think about the timing. Chen Kai's paper, revealing the fourfold increase in water subduction, was published in November 2018, just 3 months after this monster quake. Is that a coincidence? Official geological agencies are very good at measuring where and when an earthquake happens. They are less interested in asking why the frequency and intensity of these deep quakes seem to be increasing. The data is published in separate journals by separate teams years apart. No one is putting the pieces together on a single desk. So let's do it for them. You have a sealed container, the Earth's mantle. You are pumping 3 billion tons of water into it every year, far more than it's releasing, and you are heating it to 1,300 degrees Celsius. What you have created is a planetary pressure cooker. The deep earthquakes, they are just the sound of the pot rattling, a warning that the pressure is. But that's not the real danger. The official risk maps show you the familiar fault lines, the San Andreas, the Pacific Ring of Fire. They are based on historical data. They assume the future will look like the past. And here's the flaw in that thinking. They are tracking the cracks that already exist. They are not tracking the new stress you are adding to the system. The water isn't just causing things to break. It's changing the mantle itself. It lowers the melting point of the rock, creating vast amounts of new magma, more magma than the existing volcanoes can vent. So this molten rock, supercharged with dissolved water and gas, begins to pool. It gathers, searching for a weak point in the crust above. It's a new threat, one that isn't on any map. We've been so focused on the water going down, we never stop to think about how it might come back up. And it won't come back as a gentle volcanic flow. When this much water, trapped under this much pressure, finally finds a way out, it will be explosive on a scale we have no name for. The irony is terrifying. We search for signs of the apocalypse in the sky. An asteroid, a solar flare. But the real threat may be the very thing that gives us life. The water isn't vanishing. It's just moving. It's being drawn into the chamber of a gun the size of a planet. And the trigger is being squeezed, millimeter by millimeter, right beneath your feet. Being squeezed right beneath your feet. It doesn't always make a sound. Sometimes the most dangerous pressure builds in complete and total silence. This is the part of the story that is not measured in megatons or magnitudes. It is measured in the quiet moments of a life lived on the edge. Meet Kenji Tanaka, a third-generation fisherman from the Shima Peninsula in Japan. He doesn't read scientific journals about subduction rates. He reads the water. He feels the harbor floor. He tells stories of days when the tide seems wrong, when the air feels heavy with a tension he cannot name. His life is a conversation with the plate boundary he lives on. He knows the ground beneath him is not truly solid. It is a living thing, and it is moving. Think about what that means. The water disappearing from the vast Pacific. Our 3 billion tons a year is being driven under Kenji's home. It is being heated to 1,300 degrees Celsius, creating the very magma that fuels the volcanoes on his horizon. The official reports call this geology. For Kenji, it's just Tuesday. But here's where the story takes a turn. The real threat isn't always the sudden, violent rupture we all fear. In some places, the pressure expresses itself in a much stranger way. Move your attention 7,500 kilometers east to the Cascadia subduction zone. a massive fault line stretching from Canada's Vancouver Island down to Northern California. For 324 years, it has been unnervingly quiet, but it is not sleeping. In the 1990s, a geophysicist named Herb Draggart installed a network of highly sensitive GPS sensors across the region. He expected to see the North American platelet compressing, buckling under the strain. Instead, he saw something that made no sense. For about 14 months, the land would creep steadily northeast. Then, for 2 weeks, it would reverse course, slipping silently back to the southwest by nearly 2 centimeters. An earthquake in motion. He had discovered slip events, a silent tremor releasing the energy of a magnitude 6 earthquake over days, not seconds. You could be standing directly on top of it and feel absolutely nothing. These silent slips are now known to be driven by fluids, by water forced deep into the fault zone, temporarily lubricating it. The same water being swallowed by the Pacific. The official disaster plans for Seattle, for Portland, for Vancouver. They are all preparing for the big one, the catastrophic magnitude 9 snap that the locked fault is expected to produce. But here's the question nobody is asking in those official briefings. How does this new understanding that 4 times more water is being pumped into the system change the equation? The hazard maps were drawn based on old assumptions. They are preparing for a known enemy. But the enemy has changed. It is being fed, overpressurized. It's like preparing for a fist fight, not knowing your opponent has spent the last year injecting steroids. What does it mean to live with that knowledge? To go to work, to build a home, on a machine that is silently accumulating a debt you know will one day be paid? The GPS stations confirm it every 14 months. The Earth gives a little, a silent sigh. It is the most personal data point in the world, a measure of time running out, and it forces you to stand on the ground beneath your own home, wherever it may be, and ask a simple, terrifying question. What silent debts are being kept right under your feet? Kept right under your feet. The answer is not found on a seismograph. It is not measured in millimeters of ground slip. The answer lies within the water itself, and it changes the entire story of life on this planet. For over 150 years, we've told ourselves a simple tale. Life began in a warm little pond, as Charles Darwin speculated in 1871. Sunlight, shallow water, simple chemistry. But what if the story doesn't begin on the surface at all? What if it begins 600 kilometers down? In the dark? Remember the water being dragged into the mantle. It is not pure H2O. It is a chemical soup carrying dissolved carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur from the ocean floor. The raw ingredients for existence. You are not just adding water to a pressure cooker. You're adding flour, sugar, and yeast to an oven the size of a world. And here's the part that reframes everything. The decade-long Deep Carbon Observatory project confirmed the mantle is one of the largest carbon reservoirs on Earth. It holds up to 90% of our planet's total carbon. Think about what that means. 9/10 of the element that forms the backbone of all life is down there, not up here. The subduction zones are not just graves for the ocean floor. They are conveyor belts feeding a deep, hot bioreactor. This process, the one that generates the earthquakes we fear, might be the very engine of creation. Eventually, this superheated water returns to the surface through hydrothermal vents. When it emerges, it is rich with complex organic molecules, the blocks of proteins, the precursors to DNA. Look at these vents today. They are oases of life in the total darkness of the deep sea. entire ecosystems that have never seen the sun, powered by the planet's inner heat. This is the new connection. The Pacific isn't just disappearing, it is participating in a cycle so vast it connects the molten heart of the planet to the origins of life itself. The destroyer is also the creator. The official reports focus on risk, on millimeters of ground motion, on evacuation plans. They treat the Earth like a faulty machine we need to manage. But perhaps we've been asking the wrong question all along. We spend our lives trying to predict the planet's next move, to shield ourselves from its power. We see ourselves as separate from it, a fragile intelligence living on a dangerous rock. But this deep cycle suggests something else. It suggests we are not on the Earth. We are of the Earth. And our bodies are made of the same carbon being cycled through the mantle. Our blood has the same salty tang as the ocean being swallowed and reborn. The ultimate question, then, is not whether we can survive the planet's violent shifts. The question is,